Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I am joined tonight with a very special guest. Some of you who've been tuning in over the months may notice this familiar face, Dr. Sylvia Bollie. Hi. Oh
Y'all always making my name French. This Liberian last name, it's Boley.
my God, Bollie. Okay, I'm trying to make it
But
fancy here.
everyone does that Boley. I like it though, but I don't want my people to accuse me of putting on airs. It's Boley.
Right, right. It's a fabulous name. It's a fabulous name.
Thank you.
Yes. So it's so good to have you tonight. For those who are tuning in for the first time, this is the As a Health webcast. We do a webcast every month on various topics related to health and wellness. Tonight we are, as the title says, The Weight of It All, Part 3. We are talking about wellness and weight loss. And yes, I'm super excited because Dr. Bollie is here tonight to talk about her book, Embrace You. This is an amazing book, an amazing resource. Yes, as you can see, and just a fabulous, practical manual even of how to lose weight and keep it off long term. So, without further ado, Dr. Sylvia, I'll just say Dr. Sylvia.
I might change it to Boley. It does sound really good. So many people do that, so maybe it's a sign, Boley.
Belay,
But
got a floor
so
to it. I love it.
well, thank you for having me back. Chinera, I love you and I love being here and I appreciate your support. And just as we learn and share and grow from each other. So, for people who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sylvia Foley. I am a dual board certified obesity medicine specialist, but I'm more than that. I'm also a weight loss and wellness mindset coach. And I really love helping personalize your weight and wellness journey. My mission is to help each individual woman, especially high performing women, identify and solve your unique biological, emotional, and spiritual weight gain triggers so that you can get to the root cause, stop stressing and obsessing over the scale, calorie counting, release all of that, and truly embrace you. And I do that through the book, through my coaching program, Embrace You Weight and Wellness. And I just love really helping. I'm on a mission to help people to really figure out the science and soul of you. Like, what is it that makes you you, and why is it that we are going in these cycles of just yo-yo dieting over and over again? It's time to break up with those cycles.
Absolutely. And a lot of people really do have difficulty not only just losing the weight, but keeping it off long term. Like that is the key right there. The ups and downs, the yo-yos. As a health center, I do medical weight loss. So I've seen these cycles with a lot of my clients as
Mm-hmm.
well. So it's, talking about that lifestyle shift and that mindset shift as well. So I want you to, for audiences that haven't seen you the first two times that you've been on the
Sure.
show, kind of let us know, how did you get into obesity medicine and the weight loss realm?
Well,
What
I
was
feel
your
like it's
story? Yeah.
I'll try to keep it short because it's a lifetime journey, as it is for many people. But for me, the what my first introduction to like health, weight, wellness was with my grandma, my namesake. Sylvia. She was also Sylvia, but Sylvia Anderson. And so she came to live with us when I was about 8. She had survived the Liberian Civil War, and by the time she came to us, because of the lapse of healthcare, she had diabetes, hypertension, and then eventually suffered a massive stroke. But what was interesting about what happened with her is that all the doctors blamed her weight. And because she was a voluptuous woman and she did by definition have the disease of obesity. So I grew up really early seeing that there is a correlation between having too much weight and being very sick, because I saw what happened to my grandma, where she went from this very independent matriarch to our family to being totally dependent on care. And so that was like the first thing that really nailed in my head, that okay, obesity is a disease and that it can lead to other serious diseases. But I think as a woman and as a child, like growing up then, what I didn't, what how I internalized that without having the right kind of teaching, was I became a chronic dieter, on and off, on and off. Even though I wasn't someone at that point, my metabolism, I had a high metabolism, I was like, could eat and run it off, but I was so scared of gaining weight. I knew the calories of everything. Like I look back at my diary from when I was 15 to set like at 16, and I have like literally Twinkie 150 calories. Like, so I grew up in that culture, eating the snack wells instead of eating what you really want, was this that double chocolate chip cookies, so and on top of that, my family, they were restaurateurs, so I grew up around a lot of delicious food. Oh yeah, both of my parents, they owned a restaurant. It served Caribbean, West African, and soul food. So like, it was so you would very rich food, overindulge in that. But then when you felt like you did too much, then you walk it back and go on a diet. So just, all of that. And basically when I got to college, how I coped with the stress of college and being in rigorous studies, I'm an uber nerd. I went all the way through school. I didn't take any breaks, was sugar. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't drug, but sugar. And I discovered desserts, which was something I didn't eat growing up much. And so fortunately, I had the metabolism to keep up with that until I had my first child. And with my son, I gained 60 pounds during that pregnancy and really struggled to get it off after the pregnancy, because at that point, my main way of coping with stress was trying to please everybody else, saying yes, the say yes syndrome, and being a people pleaser, and then also sugar. So, if I was stressed, I was not sleeping, I was eating more sugar, that all of that. And so for about 2 years, I had 40 extra pounds on. And I always say weight is not just a number. There's a story behind that. And also weight is not the main issue. It's a symptom of everything else that was going on. So everything else that was going on was the hormonal changes post of pregnancy, breastfeeding, all of that. But then also the hormonal changes with sleep deprivation. So many of us are sleep deprived. So not getting that sleep, having those high stress levels, that inflammation high, all of that. And really and when I tried to diet again, which I had been doing my whole life, didn't work, because at this point, as a spiritual person, Jesus and I are best friends, I like to say. And so as a very spiritual person, God was just like, I'm not letting you try to create a positive change with a negative mindset and a negative approach anymore. You have to start with a positive mindset, start with self-love, and then deal with the root issues instead of just putting these pacifiers on it. Okay, I'm going to calorie count, do all of that. And then, so for me, it was really, a good friend said to me, be nice to Sylvia. I like her. And that was like the key that really clicked, and like, okay, I'm so kind, I'm so loving to everyone else around me. But when it comes to myself, I'm like, why can't you just work out? How'd you let this happen to yourself? Oh my gosh, you're gonna die. Like, I mean, all that negative self-talk. So I had to start there, get rid of that. And then that really opened up the door to me realizing that much of what I had learned throughout my life about weight loss was wrong. What I had learned in med school about weight loss and how the body processes fat and metabolism was wrong. So I had to learn the newest science that was available. And that's when, for me, I got boarded in obesity medicine. But even with having that really in-depth knowledge and training on body fat metabolism and all of that, it is still what struck me is it's a personal journey. Everybody is different. Everyone is different. You are a new textbook being written, right? So all of our guidelines, all the
Yeah.
science we know is just a starting point. But still, it really put in me that everyone needed to embrace themselves, embrace their journey. And so
Right.
that's how I got to where I am today with starting the Embrace You program, the Embrace You approach, and writing the Embrace You book. But the goal is really to take all the newest information and science we learn and put it in the context of the individual, put it in the context of you, because that's what's going to make your weight loss last. But also,
Mhm.
it's not just about losing weight, it's about gaining wellness, because that wellness of body, mind, spirit is what's going to keep you when those numbers fluctuate a little bit on the scale, which they will. So
Right.
that's the journey.
Wonderful. And I think it's good that you do have that personal experience with this area of health and wellness because you've lived it. You really
Mhm.
can identify and understand what each of your clients are going through because you've experienced it yourself. And what I really like about the Embrace You approach is the focus on positive reinforcement. So it's a focus on getting healthy, being well, self acceptance, self love, and coming from that standpoint instead of a standpoint of shame or disappointment or blaming yourself or things like that. So I think I just love your entire philosophy behind this. So that's why I always have you back so much.
Well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's really time we release the shame and the blame and embrace self-love
Mhm.
and positivity. And honestly, if I can speak to that, I think having walked through the journey and walked many others through the journey. So I started Embracing. I launched it in August 2020 during the pandemic. So literally,
Mm.
while other people, were gaining the COVID-19, I
19.
was helping people lose, but also helping people gain wellness. And one of the
Yes.
things I think concerns people have about this approach, the weight loss space has been negative for so long. People think like, if I'm not negative, if I'm not hard on myself, then I won't be able to
Mm.
lose weight and keep it off. So I one of the assurances I give people again is I get back to how, as human beings, we try to avoid pain. We are geared towards enjoyment and pleasure. And part of why
Mhm.
that diet doesn't last while it doesn't work, because it's painful and it sucks and you don't want
Mhm.
to keep doing it. So
Right.
if you really think about anything you've been consistent in your life doing, whether it's been something that's beneficial for you or something harmful, it's because there's a level of enjoyment. There's a level of positive enjoy and reinforcement, positive enjoyment with it. And there's pleasure
Right.
in it. So
Right.
the positivity does work. And
Mhm.
positivity is not being lazy or taking the easy way. And even if it is easier, good, because it's easier, you're going to stick with it.
Absolutely. And I think once people start feeling and seeing the results of these
Hmm.
changes, that in itself is going to be a motivating, positive reinforcement towards getting to their goals. So
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. So, the last webcast for those who are just tuning in to this particular topic, the weight of it all, the last webcast we had on this subject, we were actually going through each chapter of the book and kind of highlighting different areas of all the aspects of weight loss. So, this is kind of part two of that. If you go back even further, our very first webcast, which I think was earlier last year, we talked about the myths and misconceptions of weight loss. So, especially with during this pandemic, some of everybody's been gaining weight. So, this has been a
Mhm.
really hot topic, more than usual for sure.
And I
So,
think, but I think, Chinere, one thing to just say on that topic, because I have spoken a lot about it, I want to also um, help people like give themselves some grace and just
right.
release some of the like the shame and like, oh, I gained weight. Duh, of course you did, because fat is functional in our body. The function of fat,
Mhm.
it protects.
Right.
It protects you. It's meant to store energy in case there's a famine, in case there's a pandemic, in case there's no toilet tissue and no food on the shelf. Like, that is the function of it. So
Right.
in some ways, the body was doing what it was supposed to do. Now,
Yeah.
for those of us who already are kind of predisposed to having extra fat or having the disease of obesity or signals in our body to gain too much fat, we could have overshot. That plus the stress eating, the emotional eating,
Yeah.
all of those things as well. So I would say to anyone who's struggling and feeling in that place like, oh, I was doing so well before the pandemic and now I gained all this weight, to number one, just congratulate yourself for surviving a pandemic in which
Right.
hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. So
Right.
you have survived, and look at it like now it's time to thrive. I'm thriving now. I made it through that. My body was trying to help me. She might have done a little too much. She might have put a little extra, but
Right.
she was trying to help me. And now it's
Mhm.
time to move on and see what lessons I learned from that experience so that I can optimize my health and wellness to be prepared, God forbid, for whatever might come next. Because even if it's not a global pandemic, there's always something that goes on in our lives that can trigger us into that cycle of weight gain or extra fat storage again.
Absolutely. So really understanding and getting to the root of like why we gain weight, what are the
Mhm.
triggers, what are the other elements of weight gain beyond just how much we eat and you know how much we exercise, right? So that's the
Mhm.
main kind of two things that people focus on, but this book really kind of expands the whole thought of what it means to lose weight and why your body has a propensity even to gain weight. It's not all
Mhm.
necessarily your fault all the time. So um you know, just going through the chapters, I know we actually went through the first 4 chapters in our last webcast. So the first chapter, we talked about the complexity of weight loss. Chapter 2 and 3, we talked about the healthy and happy weight, which I love that concept. People get this book and read the chapters on healthy and happy weight loss. I absolutely love that approach. Chapter 4, we talked about determining a weight loss eating plan, which we'll touch upon a little later. And today we are starting at chapter 5, which talks about exercise for healthy weight loss. So,
Mhm.
where do we start there? Some people love exercise, not everybody does. And really kind of understanding, you know, the main question I get is, okay, how much do I need to exercise to lose weight? You know,
Mhm.
and what do I need to do? What type of exercises? Like, what is your approach when it comes to, you know, exercising for weight loss?
So, you know, from the book, like every chapter starts with a mindset shift. In the wise words of In Vogue, free your mind and the rest will follow. And that is so true because if you're already starting, like, how much do I have to do? Because remember, I told you that pleasure
Mm,
plain principle. If it's painful, if it's something you don't want to do, it's negative. Eventually, even if you force yourself for some time to do it, you will stop. So
right.
it is reconnecting and shifting the mindset from saying, I have to exercise. So I say releasing, I have to exercise, to I enjoy moving my body. Movement is a gift.
Mm,
The you
yeah.
know exercise is a chore, but movement, even just walking, dancing, running, whatever it is, but moving your body is a gift. Think about, I when I was working on when I launched Embrace You, I was working on this book. I was working on the COVID-19 front lines in a rehab facility and so in nursing home. Many of my patients did not get out of bed for a whole
Mm,
year. They had to be
wow.
physically turned. They had to, they could not move their limbs. And I think more than anything, that experience taught me the gift of movement. The fact that I could just walk down the hall, that I could walk around the parking lot, that I could go out each day. I was so grateful for it. So I would say release the notion that I have to exercise and embrace I get to move, and ask yourself, what type of movement do you enjoy doing? What do you enjoy? And
Mm,
start with what you
start there.
enjoy doing before you
Right.
even put any time limits or how much to exercise to lose weight. Just start moving.
Absolutely. So, and then that's something that I tell a lot of my patients, like find something that you enjoy doing because it's
Mhm.
more likely that you're going to do it again and again and repeat it. So again, looking at kind of how we're using words and then our mindset shift. Instead of seeing it as, oh, I have to exercise, it's like, no, like this is movement, this is motion, this is something that is actually a blessing that I'm able to even do. So really just shifting that perspective can make a difference in how one approaches, exercise. So,
and I also say aim for the minimum, which is what you might be asking next. Like, instead of focusing on the maximum, often people are like, how much do I have to do? Oh, 150 minutes a week, so 30 minutes a day, and they think of that big number, which when you're really starting out, that can be really overwhelming. So aim for the minimum. Say, I'm just going to do 1 minute of movement every day. 1 minute. And I know 1 minute may seem like, what am I going to do with that? But the chances are, if you do that 1 minute, you're going to do more. You might end up doing 10 minutes. You may end up doing that 30 minutes. You may be talking with your girlfriend and walking around the block, end up realizing you did a whole hour. And that in and of itself, thinking of it kind of like a bank of activity, like, you're trying to fill the bank with 150 minutes. So every little bit counts. So if I do a minute here, if I do 10 minutes, if I do the 30, it all counts towards something and to get to that weekly goal.
Absolutely. And I think that taking that approach, the small steps, it's not about, oh, I have to do 90 minutes of exercise today. It's like, okay, maybe I can do 20 minutes in the morning, or, whenever I can, kind of incorporate movement. We're going to use the word movement into your routine. And before you know it, it's there. I know one thing that I also like about your book is that you, in this particular chapter, you highlight like research that has been done in regards to what, exercise, those who either sustain their weight loss or those who continue to lose weight, what they do, and how many minutes. So you have to get the book to see like exactly what the research shows on that.
We're gonna do them like that, Chinnery. We're gonna make them get it. I like that. See, she's meaner than me, y'all. I would just tell you what it is, but she's like, you get the book and you have to see.
Listen, there's value in it. If we tell you all the answers, you won't. You got to read it in its context. In the
That's true. That's true. There's a lot in there, but I will say it is a combination. Adding that resistance for the fat burning is so important. And I am a cardio lover. Like I became a runner on my journey. Look, it's like, can y'all see? So I became a runner on my journey.
Oh,
those are some medals. Yeah. So, but I had to learn the hard way, especially when you're post 35, when you're done having kids, if you have PCOS, any of those hormonal things, postmenopausal, postpartum, like any of those things that we, especially as women, face. That resistance movement is so important because it builds the muscle, which helps you burn the fat. So I can't emphasize that enough, making sure that you're balancing the cardio and aerobic movement with also getting that resistance in, whether you're using real, actual, like extra weights or you're doing body weight movements as well.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think we as women, and I see this amongst a lot of women, they're like, do only aerobic, only, hard cardio, and they're afraid of the weights because they don't want to bulk up or, get too muscular. And there's value in having lean muscle mass and doing those higher resistant workout routines. As we get older, we naturally start to lose muscle mass and also increase body fat. So you really want to be proactive in regards to maintaining and increasing lean muscle, which actually gives your body kind of a metabolic boost, right? Your body at rest can burn more calories. Yeah.
So there's absolutely
value in that. So I want to embrace your exercise, and you mentioned the mindset makeover, transforming from exercising to movement, which you mentioned earlier. Make over your workout wardrobe, right? So making sure you're wearing the right clothes that are comfortable to support your exercise. Making food choices that fuel your body rather than slow it down. So eating the right foods to help support your exercise routine. movement routine, let me say.
Mhm.
Um, Starting small, slow, and steady still wins, right?
Yes.
Little steps to big changes. The mental benefits, of course. Actually, I want you to expand a little bit on the mental benefits of exercise.
I cannot emphasize that enough. And honestly, I won't lie. When I first started, so I like to say I'm the first incredible embracer. I the first one to do the embrace you journey because I live what I teach. And when I started, it was all about the weight loss. I started running because I wanted to lose weight and it was a quick way. But why I continue running now, and even this morning, I literally was like, I woke up at 6 so that I could go for a run because it had been a few days, is for the mental and the spiritual benefit
Mm,
as well. When, especially if you're an emotional eater, you're a stress eater, that if that's one of your main triggers, it exercise movement really helps to reduce those stress
those
hormone
hormones.
levels. And
Hmm.
so the cortisol, which is a word people hear a lot, the adrenaline, all of those hormones, it really helps to release to reduce those levels, also to release serotonin, which is your feel good hormone, if you will, or
Hmm.
neurotransmitter. So it's so important to get it in. And actually, they've done studies, just 10 minutes of aerobic or cardiovascular movement can really decrease mild levels of anxiety and depression. And it's first line treatment
Hmm.
in some guidelines. So I cannot emphasize enough if you're moving. And I think honestly, and you can probably attest to this, Chinere, when I'm working with people, it's funny because the once they get into a rhythm of movement regularly, they actually that's not hard to stay consistent with movement. It's that part becomes easier than the food. It's like because you do enjoy it. We were made to move. If you think about
Right.
like our ancestors, they were always in motion. They were going. So this new use of cars everywhere, elevators, escalators, all of that has reduced our movement a lot.
Movement. Right, right. And being really more embracing it and cognizant of the
Mhm.
other benefits and necessity of movement. Embracing positive community and support. So definitely, I believe in the power of an accountability partner,
Mhm.
for sure, and transforming obstacles into opportunities. So yeah, I mean, these are just amazing things in approaching the exercise component. Again, in the book, you expand on each one of these points, and I really like how you kind of personalize it to, this is what has worked for you, and really discovering what it is that was the magic formula for making it work, making it consistent.
And everyone has their own. Like, I'm not unique in that sense. Neither are you. Like, we all have our own thing. So the book is designed to help you figure out you. It's not just about me telling your story, like, look at me, look at me. It is really like about
Mhm.
you. It's called Embrace You so that you can figure out what works for you and what things you need to transform, what obstacles you need to transform into opportunities so that you can have lifelong wellness.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why I love this book. It's amazing. So, going into chapter 6. And this is a big one for a lot of people. And in this particular chapter, you talk about stress and weight loss. So I think you touched upon it a little bit earlier about the adverse effects of stress on the body and how that can actually lead to weight gain over time. So really understanding, what specifically, how, in what various ways stress impacts, our weight. What
Mhm.
would you say? Like, what are the things specifically about stress that makes weight loss so difficult?
Well, I always think about stress. There is the bio or the biological, what's going on in your body. And then then there's
Mhm.
the emo or emotional component. So what's going on in the mind. And really, our bodies has a natural stress response system. So, if people think about like flight or flight, people have always heard about that. So we're really
Mhm.
groomed for acute stress, and our body can take care of that. You get an adrenaline release, and then you have the parasympathetic, which is the sympathetic system. You have the parasympathetic, which kind of calms you down and gives you that, and helps to relax you. But what has happened is that many of us, especially women, especially Black women, like many of us, were living with chronic stress.
Yes.
And chronic stress is not just one, is not like, and many people think, well, chronic is chronic if it was 3 months or if it was a month. Like if I ask someone, what do you consider chronic stress? Usually they tell
Mhm.
me weeks or months. But really, for the body, chronic stress is more than 72 hours. And some studies say even
Mm.
48 hours. So
Wow.
after a while, all those hormones that you have circulating now become inflammatory, for it to make it short. So, and then you get high levels of cortisol. Your body doesn't respond to insulin as well. Then
Mhm.
that makes you crave things. And the things that people usually crave are really fatty, sugary, because these are all the substrate, these are the things, the building materials for those stress hormones to kind of keep the stress factory going, if you will. And so, and then we develop all these behaviors around it, right? So then you start say, when I'm stressed, I tend to get a Snicker bar. When I'm stressed, I tend to get cookies. Or I'm stressed, I tend to just, I don't have time to cook, I'm just going to pull up to the fast food. So all of those things kind of go hand in hand with this. So the first step, honestly, that's what happens with, in terms of what's going on in the body. So checking in with yourself and saying, biologically, is there something that's stressing me? And then also
Mhm.
emotionally, is there something stressing me?
Right, right. So it's really beyond, people think being stressed out is just kind of a mental and emotional thing,
Mm-mm.
not realizing that it does have a physiological effect and your body can actually start changing, and you start craving things and it changes your eating habits. It changes your sleep patterns, which also causes stress,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
kind of a vicious cycle if we're not careful.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a few key points in the book, as far as what stress can do and how it impacts weight gain. So increased cortisol, you mentioned that, the stress hormone, cravings and change in diet,
Mhm,
insulin resistance,
mhm.
decreased metabolism, and then sleep disruption. So those are the main things that stress can do and how it can really kind of mess up our weight loss.
Yes, the body mind connection is so real. I just want to emphasize that body mind spirit. And I think for so long, how we were taught is that like almost the head or the brain is separate from the rest of the body. But I just want
Mhm.
to remind people that whatever type of mental stress you're going through or emotional stress also has physical consequences as well. And they go hand in hand and they play back and forth on one another.
Right, right. So even understanding like, how we individually manage stress. Are
Mhm.
we taking on unhealthy habits that can
Mhm.
actually make things worse? A few things you mentioned is like alcohol, excessive alcohol consumption, giving into those cravings of unhealthy food, drug use, sedentary behavior, oversleeping. All these things can actually contribute to the weight gain even more. So not only are you dealing with the physiological effects of those stress hormones, you're then, for some, turning to other bad habits that
Mhm.
actually contribute further to it. So again, it becomes a vicious cycle. Um, so really understanding, and again, kind of circling back to exercise. Exercise increases those feel good hormones, which combat stress. I know even for a lot of my primary care patients who are dealing with depression and anxiety, one of the things I prescribe is increasing their exercise activity. And many
Mhm.
just doing that alone, we're seeing some changes and differences. So really understanding kind of that element of stress and the importance of addressing it, not ignoring it, because it will affect your overall wellness and weight loss, you know, ability.
And one thing I have in that chapter is the Holmes Ray stress
Hmm.
inventory. And I think
Right.
that's important too, because a lot of women in particular, we're kind of taught to just carry stuff like be strong, don't acknowledge. So I work with a lot of people
Yeah.
who aren't even really in tune with what stress is, because you're just used to functioning at this level of having all
Right.
these things going on, and you don't really
Right.
realize that, okay, this, hey, this is actually stress, because to you this is normal. And I always
Mm.
say that normal is relative, right? And normal is not
Right.
always beneficial. Normal is not
Right.
always helpful. So
Yeah.
one thing, so sometimes having that objective tool to just kind of put it into numbers really helps people, because they're like,
Hmm.
oh, you know, for me, I'm used to, they say, I'm not stressed. But as I'm listening, I'm hearing all those points add up. And I'm like,
Yep.
I think this is higher than you realize. So I would
Hmm.
recommend for anyone, if they're not really sure, they're like, oh, I don't think I'm stressed, or I just have a lot on my plate. I hear so many euphemisms for stress. And I used to be one of those people. I mean, I still have to check in with myself regularly to make
Hmm.
sure I'm not putting too much on, because it's just kind of like you're used to just having so much and feeling like it always has to be that way. So I think that is maybe a helpful place for people to start. And I would recommend doing the points and seeing how many points you get on there, because that will tell you how likely you are that the stress is going to disrupt your health, or it is disrupting your health.
Yeah, that is amazing. Yes, they do have that the Holmes Rath chart here, and it's almost like an objective
Hmm.
formula in a way that lets us know how truly impactful these different life circumstances can impact us. So it's interesting how you say we kind of normalize stress, and we're
Hmm.
almost functionally dysfunctional, right? Or kind of
That's a great way to say it. Yeah.
functionally dysfunctional. So these are things that are affecting us, and really having that ability to kind of check in and tune in every once in a while and be like, okay, what's going on? You know, why am I suddenly not, you know, able to sleep, or I'm having these
Hmm.
cravings out of the blue I don't understand. So
Hmm.
checking in, that's going to be like a really important element here. So what, you know, we talked about a few things in regards to, you know, how that impacts stress impacts our weight. So stress reduction techniques. So we mentioned exercise being one. Like, what are some other like good techniques to help reduce stress?
One of the easiest one is breathing, taking a deep breath. Okay. As
Mm,
I mentioned, the body has its natural. So if I'm gonna get nerdy for 2 seconds, the sympathetic system, right, is our fight or flight. Autonomic is what keeps us up, the upper, so to speak. It's what keeps us
mhm,
in that stress mode. And the body has natural ways of reducing its stress levels, right? So one of the simplest tools I give to my clients, and I'm put you some embracer insiders, is how to take a deep breath when you are in a high stress level. And actually, all of my sessions start with a peaceful moment, which is either prayer or deep breathing, relaxation session, or a combination of both, because just breathing helps to, you know, increase your vagus nerve and help to release those anti-stress neurotransmitters and hormones. And so I would say take a deep breath in and release
mm,
slowly to the count of three. And that's one way. And repeat as needed. If you even need to repeat that for a
mm,
whole minute, do it, because that's one way of reducing acute stress. And then even for chronic stress, it would be incorporating deep breathing in, meditation in, prayer. If you're a person of faith, there's been shown to reduce those things as well. Also, the foods you eat as well. Some foods really do trigger more stress. Things that, and
mm,
we talked about in the ideal eating plan, eating clean, right? So, and what that means is limiting your processed foods, your refined sugars. These things can really
mm,
increase stress levels, can affect our ability to concentrate, to focus. So, I would would say those are some of like the key things to even start with your stress reduction and reconnecting to stuff you love doing. I don't think if I say nothing, like enjoy yourself, find pleasure, like,
Right.
if that's reading, if it's poetry, if it's writing, if it's drawing, connecting with community, all of these things are so important.
Right. Absolutely. I think, one thing you said about there's food that can actually contribute to stress,
Hmm.
and a lot of times we don't really think that way, but like a lot of these, for instance, processed foods, which cause that inflammatory reaction, which is what stress does to us as well. So understanding, how all these things are kind of intertwined. So moving on to chapter 7, embrace your sleep. Um, and one thing that you mention a lot is just like the impact of sleep on weight loss, the importance of sleep. I think that's something that's often ignored because we're so accustomed to our busy lifestyle and just cramming in any, like, whatever activity we can in one day. And that ends up kind of carrying over, and, um, times when we should be resting, sleeping, we are up. And even when we're supposed to be like relaxed, we're up and thinking about what we need to do the next day or what we missed doing that day. And it's just, it gets almost to where sleep becomes a luxury instead of a necessity, right? So understanding, when it comes to losing weight and honestly to achieve overall wellness, the importance of sleep. So tell us a little bit about that. Why is sleep so important?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Just shifting number one with that mindset. Like, I think I start the mindset shift there is release I'm too busy to sleep and embrace I'm
Mm,
losing weight as I sleep. Like, sleep. So, shifting that mindset for thinking like sleep is a luxury or sleep is a waste of time, but
mm,
really understanding that sleep has important functions. Here we're talking about in the context of losing weight, but even
mm.
like you said, mentioned for your overall wellness, even for the very work you're trying to accomplish, sleep helps to improve your concentration levels. It improves your productivity level. You may think you're being productive by staying up, to the wee hours of the morning, but the studies and the data shows you're actually less productive. It's
Right.
it not even in that time, but the next day, and certainly like a
Yeah.
week later after doing that. So I think just number one, remembering that it's not a luxury, it's not a waste of time, because while you're sleeping, from a weight management perspective, all your appetite regulating hormones like leptin, ghrelin, you might have heard of some of these words, your insulin, all of that's being reset. And it really needs 7 to 9 hours for that whole cycle to reset. Imagine, like, when you put the dishwasher on to run. It has a set time that it's going to run. If you disrupt it, you're going to get dirty dishes. You're not going to get it finished up.
I
And
like
it's the
that
same
analogy.
thing. Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
set time that this thing
Yeah.
needs, and it has to go through the whole cycle.
Cycle. Absolutely. So, really understanding like the importance of even the stages of sleep, right? So
Mhm.
thinking that a quick nap, you know, during the night is going to kind of keep you a couple of hours. It's not, right? You have to get into these deeper levels and stages of sleep for it
Mhm.
to really count.
Exactly. It's REM sleep is what we call rapid eye movement sleep. So that deep sleep when you're dreaming, that is when your
Mhm.
body is resetting that your metabolism. So, and you need to be asleep for a couple of hours before you can get into REM. It's very rare you just doze and go straight into REM
Straight to
sleep.
deep.
So yeah,
Right.
so it takes time.
Right, absolutely. And I know in the book you also mentioned like how sleep or lack thereof actually can, you mentioned the increased hormones and certain hormones and even the effect on your appetite. So when you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to kind of tend to have more cravings, and
Mm-hmm.
that could be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Increased stress hormones, and we talked earlier about how that can, adversely affect your weight loss. So looking at, all these different elements of, the importance of sleep, the thing I like here is that you provide some tips on how to optimize sleep for weight loss. So setting a bedtime, that's one, and making your bedroom your oasis. So
Yes.
this is the key right here. I know, we have this tendency to, for instance, bring our laptop into bed and we're working on our laptop in bed, or we're on our phones, we're any and everything in our beds except sleeping, right?
Yes.
And then what's happening is that you're creating this habit of, when you are in the bed, your mind says, I'm working. And then it's not like your mind's not programmed to think of sleep when you're in the bed. You think of work and you're up. So it's almost kind of a retraining, right, of our what they call sleep hygiene. Our bedtime habits can really kind of set the tone for if we're going to have restful sleep, or if we're even going to get to sleep at all. So really understanding like what a good bedtime routine is. So what are some of your other tips or things that have worked for you?
Oh, yeah. So I can't emphasize, I love what you said about making the bedroom your oasis. Like, and I think make it cute, make it aesthetically pleasing. Like people are like, oh, I have to go away to the
Mm.
hotel. Make your bedroom look like a hotel. You know what I mean? Decorate it, get comfortable, with like comforters and pillows. Like make it a place you want to be in. And getting,
Right.
like you said, getting rid of those screens before time, getting comfortable clothing as well,
Yes.
like pajamas that's comfortable, having scents, aromatherapy. So lavender is one that can really help, lemongrass, all of that. And also timing in terms of when you eat before bed is important as well, because if your body has to digest a heavy meal, it's actually setting competing signals for its reset process, and also can lead to more discomfort as well. So I think those are some of the things that I really recommend. And there's 10. So when they read the book, they'll get the list because it walks you through step by step the 10 things that you can do to kind of make your bedroom your oasis and kind of have a great bedtime.
Absolutely. I like that idea of like almost kind of recreating your bedroom like one of those fancy luxury hotels, so you feel like you're going somewhere special, So that's a really good idea. So in chapter 8 of your book, you talk about one of the important elements of weight loss, which is maintaining the weight loss. So
Yes.
that's difficult for a lot of people, for it's one thing to lose the weight. It's one thing to lose significant amount of weight loss. It's another thing to actually consistently keep it off for a long period of time. So what are some of the keys to long-term weight loss success?
So, I mean, again, if we're going to go based on what have the studies shown, the data, number one, I just want to let everyone know is like, it's not in your mind. Your body naturally is designed to hold on to weight, hold on to extra fat. And again, remember, I told you fat is functional. Fat has a lot of benefits, protection, hormonal regulation, all of those things. So, and really, remember our bodies were designed, if you will, for times and period in a time frame when we didn't have refrigerators, we didn't have fast food down the street, we didn't have grocery stores. So it's holding on to this extra weight, thinking that okay, there may be a famine, there may be something like that. And plus, if you couple that with the metabolic condition of obesity, you will it will then be primed to stay at its highest weight. So the body is trying to hold on to fat and stay at its highest weight. So the signals that we give it are what's going to make sure that you maintain it. Some of these signals are not really in our control, right? Like, so we talk about a lot
Mm-hmm.
of dealing with the hormonal things that are going on, and that's where medications can come in handy for some people. You may need medications, you may need bariatric surgery, but if we're just focusing
Mm-hmm.
on lifestyle interventions, I think the number one thing is when you get to a weight loss plateau, which this happens to everyone, because when your body loses weight, that is a stressor to the body, and it thinks it
Mm.
has to kind of check with your body and say, hey, are we really supposed to be losing weight? Because remember, we're designed to hold on to weight. So why are we losing our fat stores? And so
Mm-hmm.
that weight loss plateau is where I see a lot of people make a decision that will determine whether or not they're going to maintain or regain. So I prepare people by letting you know that the weight loss plateau is real. In med school,
Mm-hmm.
we actually were taught that it wasn't real, that people just started eating again this, but it's not all just because you just start eating, it's because
Right.
biologically your body sends out signals that is kind of asking, do we want to maintain this weight or should we regain? And because we are designed to regain, I'm going to increase your appetite, your hunger
Mm-hmm.
hormones. I'm going to increase your ghrelin. I'm going to reduce your sensitivity to leptin, which is leave your appetite suppressant. So all of these things are going on. And then, yes, what we decide to do during the plateau, if we say, oh man, this scale isn't moving, you know what, forget this. I'm gonna just go back
Right.
to what I was doing. It's not working.
Yeah.
That adds fuel to the fire, because now
Yeah.
we've set the signal, oh yeah, you were right, we shouldn't lose weight, we should regain the weight that we've lost. So I think it's so important to be prepared. Just to summarize this, to just know that your body's not against you, it's doing what it was designed to do, which was hold on to extra weight. Then that the plateau is real, and to expect it and prepare for it, and making
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're not sending the wrong signals during the plateau, and be patient during the plateau as well. It's
Be
that patience,
patient.
right? And then
Yes.
phone a friend, which would
Hmm.
be Chinere, it may be myself, an obesity specialist, like to really give you the tools, because there are some people in different hormonal states. For women, I say like it's the P's, puberty, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, postmenopause, PCOS is a big one. Um,
Yeah.
and these are times when you may need additional tools or support to help you through.
To help you sustain, right? Absolutely. So we have our first question for the evening. This is a question regarding sleep.
Mhm.
Sunshine asks, what are your suggestions for staying asleep after you fall asleep for 3 or 4 hours and then wake up so you're not able to get a full 7 or 8 hours of sleep? So I think they're talking about like when you're
Mhm.
sleeping and then you stop and then you're up. How do you really, what are your suggestions for staying asleep throughout the night?
So, Sunshine, first of all, I love your name, but like, it just makes me happy seeing Sunshine.
Yeah.
But I would say that's a tough question to answer. So, let me put it into context a little bit. So, number one, it depends on your age. Honestly, this is where like age is it matters, because as our body matures, there's a reason why people say sleep like a baby and not sleep like a 70-year-old. Like as we
Right.
mature, we actually tend to wake up earlier. And with each decade,
Hmm.
you wake up a little bit earlier. So it depends on your age. And for one thing, so part of it may just be part of your circadian rhythm, which is your sleep cycle changing. Now, the other thing, though, our sleep is a reflection of what happens in the day. And when I hear someone who falls
Hmm.
asleep for 3 or 4, oh, see, yep, 50 plus. So
Yes, yeah.
since we'll need to talk offline, but definitely once we're like perimenopausal, postmenopausal, like the hormones shift, and early morning waking and interrupted sleep is a big thing. Now, if you have the disease of obesity, something that comes along with it, and I talk about in the book, is sleep apnea or obstructive sleep apnea. And this is a condition in which you have a lot of, it can be caused multiple ways, but in the context of extra weight, is you have a lot of tissue around your neck, and it causes your airways to get compressed and close when you sleep, and your body senses that it's not breathing, or apnea, so missing a breath. And because of that, that you will wake yourself up because you're not breathing, right? And so that's one another key reason why people number, and it can cause a number of things. So it disrupts your sleep, but you get low quality sleep like we talked about, and then that also can be associated with more weight gain or not losing weight. So getting screened for sleep apnea, or the simple test you can do is something called a stop bang score. I think I have
Mhm.
it in the book, and you can even just look that up too. But check your stop bang, and then that can, you can have a conversation with your clinician about if you should get checked for sleep apnea. Now, all of that stuff is good, you know, part of it. But another thing, like I was saying, is what is going on in the day, because a lot of us, when those stress levels are not well controlled, it's like, and we haven't given ourselves a proper space before bedtime, it's like you're running your to-do list before, because you haven't unwound, and your brain is like trying to process the whole day and the stress of the whole day and everything like that, and then you wake yourself up, and then when you wake up you have a hard time falling back asleep because your mind is racing and you're thinking of all of those things. So I would actually walk it back in the day and see, okay, how am I handling my stress from the daytime? And this is what I do with a lot of my clients, is help you see, okay, what's going on in the day that's interfering at night with the sleep, provided we
Interesting.
check for all of those things.
Hmm. Interesting. And yeah, that's a really good point. And I never kind of thought of it that way. Like, what is it that you're doing during your waking hours that's actually disrupting your sleep? So that's really important. We talked about what it takes to, maintain the weight loss, what our body is naturally inclined to do, and understanding the mechanics of how our body naturally works. I think that is so often underrated, and but so important,
Mhm.
because that way you can understand and anticipate, hey, I'm going to hit a plateau, this will happen, and not get discouraged because you already know it's coming. So what are the things that we can do to overcome it or kind of push through it? And one of the things is, you've mentioned is earlier, I think in chapter, forget which chapter, in regards to, yes, chapter 4, you talk about creating like a weight loss eating plan, right? So
Mhm.
again, this focus on forming habits.
Mhm.
So what you've released actually within the past couple of months since you first published the book is the Embrace You meal plan. So to me, I call it meal planning made easy. We've all heard meal plans and meal preps, and oftentimes people get kind of like, some people are great on it, can kind of figure it out. Others, it's kind of frustrating. It just seems like an extra task. Trying to find the right foods, trying to find foods that they like so they'll continue eating that way. So tell us a little bit about the Embrace You meal plan.
Yeah, so I call it, I love what you said, meal planning made easy. I call it 6 solutions to fix your meal plans. And it's an ebook and a video course. And it's because one of the most common questions I get is what to do about food and how do you handle the food? And, and I think that was one of the struggles that I had again when I started my journey 8 years ago. Even my parents, I mentioned, were restaurateurs. So I grew up with people cooking for me. And then I was the nerd. So I just said, I'm studying. I can't be in the kitchen. I got to study. I got to become a doctor. So all this backfired for me when I'm like now grown and, married, and then have a new kid, and then trying to eat healthy. People just like eat healthy. And actually printing out those meal plans did not work, because you're like,
Mm,
where do I start? Okay. And
right.
somebody telling me what to eat, what they eat, doesn't really help me with my issue, which is I'm so busy, I don't even feel like I have time to buy groceries. So what my course is really helping you kind of diagnose what is your main
Mm,
issue when it comes to creating consistency with your meal plan. So I go through,
mhm,
if you have time barriers, if your thought is I'm too busy, if your thought is I live in a house with picky eaters and everybody everybody's eating something different. My family's not
Mhm.
eating like my husband, all this plant-based stuff that I do. He's like, no, I don't like it. Last night, he actually confessed to me that he does not like my sparkling water. I was like, I feel like that's like one of the
They'll
few
come out.
places we connect. Yeah, we connected, like because we eat so different already. But I was like, oh, okay, fine. So, but
Right.
so what do you do with that kind of like when you're living in a household like that where you're the only one eating healthy or other people aren't doing it, or you're traveling a lot? So getting to
Right.
the root cause and coming up with solutions. So that each problem, there's six of them, or you don't cook, a talent issue. I had to learn how to cook. So I give
Mhm.
you I talk a little bit about what the issue is, the mindset shift that's needed, and then give you solutions, at least six solutions for each one. And then there's also a video with just meal plan basics as well. So just like knowing the difference between a meal prep, like meal prep is different from planning. So planning
Right.
is just like when you're getting the grocery list, getting the recipes, all of that. And meal prep is when you're actually making the food and putting it away. So really breaking it down in a way that makes it easy to know. And then I also include 11 plant-based, meat adaptable recipes that can be made in 15 minutes. And they
Oh,
are fast, filling, and flavorful because
I
food
love
must
it.
taste good so that
Good. Yes,
you can
I'm a
do
big proponent of that.
it.
I'm
Yes.
Nigerian, so we like some flavor in our food.
There's a
So
lot of
yes.
flavor in them and they're
Mhm.
filling. And the
Yep.
reason, again, why I made this guide is because, and why people are like, oh, it's plant based, because that's exactly the face I would make. Oh, it's plant based. And you think, what am I going to eat? Just a salad, And what am I going to eat? So I wanted to make sure that you could see there's actually really filling variety of meals that you can make. And for your audience who's watching this, if they buy the course and the ebook today, I will actually open up and they will get on the listserv, and I'll do a live session, a live coaching session to walk them through it. We'll do that together in May. So if they get that today.
Excellent, excellent. And I think I just shared on the chat window about how to get the Embrace You book, as well as the meal plan guide. So there's some information there on that. But yeah, that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. So I would like, there's so much that we talked about. I swear we can talk about this forever.
I
Um,
know, and I appreciate you giving me the space to do it. We've had some great conversations here, so thank you. Mhm.
Absolutely. So I definitely want you to share with your audience what services you offer, as well as how they can get in touch with you. I understand you're on Instagram, Facebook. What are your handles? Give me all that so I can share that with the audience.
Well, on Instagram, on all social media, it's Embrace You, YOUMD. So you can follow me. I am on Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, Facebook, of course. So I'm on all of them. On Clubhouse, we have the Overcoming Obesity Club every Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. We meet and we have live discussions on various topics about weight and wellness. And we're a group of moderators who have each personally gone on our own weight loss journey and kept the weight off anywhere between a year to 14 years. And we've all done it a little bit differently. So we love being there as a resource to just give you high quality information. So that's from Thursdays from 12 to 1 p.m. on Clubhouse Eastern Standard Time. And then in terms of how people can connect with me, please join, go ahead and head over to my website. You can join our email list. We'll be sending out information. I have the Embrace You Weight and Wellness Journey, which is Breakthrough Journey, which is a 12-week course to kind of jumpstart your weight and wellness your lifetime weight and wellness journey. And basically what it consists of is working one-on-one with me to identify your unique body, mind, spirit, weight gain triggers. We go over 100 triggers that for your weight gain, so that this is like the most in-depth like understanding that you will get on you and your weight and your wellness, because it's all interrelated, but really seeing how can we break through those cycles of yo-yo dieting and weight regain. And so I love doing that. Like I said, about 37 people through the journey. We've had 7 different groups, and we're working through it too. So the next group will start on May 14th. But how the journey starts is that you need to meet with me one-on-one. I want to make sure it's a good fit. My groups are small intentionally because I want there to be a great connection. And so the overall goal of it is identifying your biological, emotional, and spiritual weight gain triggers, and then also connecting so that you get your clarity, confidence, and consistency, but also connecting you with the community. So you'll be going on your 12-week journey with a community of like-minded sisters that can really help you, because help you learn and share and grow together. And we go through things like not just talking about, okay, eat this, don't eat that, but the why, and equipping you with tools to help you eat better. So we talk about emotional eating, overcoming cravings, again, that bio emo about your cravings. Talk about like how you can keep the weight off, more in detail about getting through the plateau and everything, and then really overcoming those mindset things that get us back in this loop of doing it. So I love what I do every day. I'm getting testimonials. Yesterday I got one from a client who, she had actually done another weight loss program. Most people have done 4 programs before they even see me. She had actually lost 25 pounds. It didn't cure her insulin resistance, but to me, I identified all these other triggers, emotional triggers, sleep apnea that hadn't been diagnosed.
Right.
So she was just sending me like, hey, it's working. And, it's been 6 months on her journey. And Shine, yes, so it's not insurance-based. She asked about the pricing. It's not insurance-based, it's out of pocket. But and usually we can discuss it on the phone call in terms of the pricing.
Okay, great. So there's more information on the website. I'm going to show everybody the book again. That is, I know the lighting's Embrace You, Your Guide to Transforming Weight Loss Misconceptions into Lifelong Wellness. So you have this available as a printed copy. I understand people can order from your website.
Amazon is the main place now, but there's a link on my website, and you can also read a little bit more. It was Healthline's best overall weight loss book of 2022. It was on the Live. Thank you. On the Live Strong website as top 8 weight loss books of 2022. So I'm really helpful. I'm really grateful to create a tool. And the reason, again, I wrote this book literally while I was working on the front lines, taking care of 2 kids. But I just felt so compelled because of what was going on during COVID-19, and then again, all the misinformation that's out there for people trying to lose weight. And you can lose weight and still be well. And that is what it ultimately is about. It's not just losing weight, but gaining wellness and embracing your uniqueness.
Absolutely. You said it right there. Thank you so much, Dr. Bollie. This was another amazing session. I encourage everyone who's tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your questions tonight. Certainly, I've left some information on how to reach Dr. Bollie. And I understand your main website is at embraceyouweightloss.com. Okay, so I'm going to include that in the chat. So certainly If you have an opportunity to watch the previous 2 webcasts that I've had with Dr. Bollie, that is available on the Eze Family Health Center YouTube page, as well as on our Facebook page. So definitely check it out. Thank you again, Dr. Bollie, and thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye, Sunshine. Bye, Evelyn. Bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye-bye.